Tracking a big shift in our weather pattern out of those great spring conditions and warm weather into some much cooler conditions, as well as Sierra snow, valley showers, even the possibility of thunderstorms. I'm ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods, and we started off with a weather impact alert for the Sierra. That's going to be Friday through Sunday with snow and perhaps even some thunder snow in there. Need to be alert with changing hourly conditions. That means being prepared for winter-like driving in the Sierra. One of the caveats, though, is that the ground is still pretty warm, so the snow should melt pretty quickly. But with minor accumulation, that always tends to get things going a little bit slower up the hill as people try to navigate some of those slick conditions. Here's a look at the snow level forecast. Now, we started off at about 6,000 to 6,200 feet on Friday afternoon, but that will lower to about 5,000 feet. All in all, this is going to be below the pass level, kind of unusual for this time of year. Certainly not unheard of. It's just this is quite a pattern shift for us, especially with the unseasonably warm weather that we had last weekend over the Easter holiday. So the big weather changes, of course, the highlight, the first of which is going to be that weather impact alert when Friday through Sunday for the Sierra. The impact being snow and travel delays, the need to be prepared for much cooler weather as well in the high country. Now, as we move down in elevation, it's going to be a weather impact, not necessarily alert, but kind of just wanted to make you prepared for what's going to be happening Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Much cooler weather still for the valley, but little to no accumulation. That being said, still have a chance of thunderstorms throughout the region. So we're going to highlight some of those particular areas that we'll see that. We're going to continue these weather playlists and extended forecasts as we navigate through our weather pattern shift on ABC 10 Plus. If you haven't done so already, invite you to download that for free wherever you stream on TV. For free, we've got weather explainers on there as well as our weather and climate specials. So go ahead and download that for free. All right, taking a look at the winds. Now we're going to see those periodic late afternoon, early evening winds pick up from the Pacific, and that is ushering in quite a bit of change with our temperatures. We've been seeing winds at about 20 to 25 miles per hour and expect that to be the case again on Thursday. Again, kind of pulling in some of that cooler Pacific air. As the frontal system approaches, we're not expecting super windy conditions with this weather event. It's just that we're going to see those changes more so in the way of cooler weather, more clouds, and also the chance for some precipitation. Taking a look at the next 48 hours, all we're going to see really into our Thursday, even our early Friday forecast, is more cloud cover. It's not until we dig later into the afternoon on Friday that we start to see some isolated showers throughout the valley and some snow for the Sierra as well. Again, that'll be at about 6,000 feet, so that's going to be below the pass level. That will be around Lake Tahoe as well as Truckee, so the Tahoe Basin getting some spring snow as we head into the last weekend of April. Moving it through our Friday late evening forecast, that's when we start to see more scattered showers throughout the Sacramento Valley, parts of the northern San Joaquin Valley, the Delta, even the Tracy Triangle, so starting to kind of hitting pockets of the Bay Area. And again, the snow will continue for the Sierra into our Friday night, even into our Saturday. I'll take a look at the longer range forecast in just a moment, but wanted to hit early on with those immediate changes to the forecast, that being the slight chance of showers coming in on Friday, as well as the cooler temperatures. I mean, we've been sitting about 10 degrees above average in the mid and in some areas almost upper 80s. Now we're going to turn it the other direction. Our highs Friday through much of the weekend drop into the 60s. Our average high is usually about the mid to upper 70s in the valley. We're going to be lucky to hit the mid to upper 60s for the upcoming weekend. We'll see this be a very brief pattern shift, though, because by next week, we're going to be tracking almost 90 degrees in the outlook. But we've got this little pulse of moisture heading our way from the Pacific, that counterclockwise circulation of the low, just kind of driving its way southward here and then eventually inland, which will drive the opportunity for some showers to come through, especially on Saturday. That's actually looking like the better day for some more organized rain shower activity in the valley. Satellite and radar, again, really not indicating any kind of disruption in this beautiful weather pattern for our Wednesday. We're still looking at clear skies. The only kind of change and hint that something is coming is the cooler weather, and that will continue to take shape as another low starts to drive its way towards the coast. Here it is just kind of brewing in the Pacific right now. Everything for the short-term forecast has been going up and around us around a high pressure ridge. That's what's been keeping us dry and on the warmer side of things. Now we're going to start to turn our attention back to that cooler weather pattern. So we've kind of got the two different air masses in place right now. By Thursday, we're looking at the chance of some thunderstorms, mainly for the northern part of the Sacramento Valley and over towards the coast. Friday, though, that expands quite a little bit farther to the south into the central Sacramento Valley and over towards the north coast, all the way up towards Fort Bragg. So if you're doing some traveling, perhaps just be aware, could get quite active during our Friday afternoon. So we'll track that. Saturday, again, slight chance of seeing some of that thunder snow as well. Taking a look at our April, the only day that we saw rain was on the first day, 5/100ths of an inch. Now we only average about 1.44 inches, so less than an inch and a half for the entire month, but it has been dry. So this is kind of well needed rain at this point, especially when you take into consideration the entire water year. We hit that dry spell in January. We really didn't know what February or March was going to hold, so it was a bit concerning. Although we had some pretty good water years the previous 2 years, but you never want to see that in what should be the wettest month of the year. We turned things around in February. We were back well above average, but then March hit and we hit below average precipitation, and it's very likely, given how little rain we're actually going to see with this incoming system, that April will end on a dry note as well. So we're almost to the end of the water year, meaning probably going to end on a dry note here. Recent water years, as I mentioned, the past 2 years, pretty decent actually. 22-23, that got us out of the drought, and then 23-24, although it was below average, it was only about an inch or so, so that is really kind of negligible. This year, 14.17 inches of rain. We're going to add a little bit to it, but again, not a whole lot. And you'll see some of the precipitation forecast numbers coming up in just a moment. Average precipitation, once we get past April, if you're not familiar with California climate, we really do not see any rain July and August. Even in June, it tends to be pretty dry. We may get a weather system coming through, giving us a few sprinkles here and there, and then it's back to the heat. And that's pretty much what we're concerned with. That'll be our main weather impact for the summer seasons. But we're just about at the end of what tends to be our wettest time of the year, kind of in the rear view mirror. In fact, January and December, January and February are our wettest months of the year. 50% of our annual precipitation coming in at that point. January being dry, that's why it was a bit concerning, since historically that is our wettest month. Peak snowpack, well, that is also in the rear view mirror. We are now looking at peak snowmelt, and I did see some calculations showing that the snowmelt is a little bit faster this year than previous years, and that will result in some of the water coming down the hill, rivers running fast, cold, and high. As we head into the dry summer months, that's when water is at its highest demand. So anything we can pull out of the atmosphere right now will be well needed in about the next 2 months or so. Precipitation forecast. Okay, here's the numbers. This is why I was saying it's very unlikely that we're going to do anything to put a dent in what will be a very dry April. Only about 1/100th to a 1/10 of an inch of rain for the valley, and closer to about a 1/10 of an inch to about a 1/4 of an inch of rain throughout the foothills. So just a look at how little accumulation we'll see in the valley. Now for this year, this isn't a whole lot, but the only reason why I'm calling for a weather impact alert is we have been dry, we've been warm. We saw folks skiing in their bikinis and their swimsuits up in the high country last weekend. Most of the ski resorts have closed, but we will see a little bit of precipitation coming through. Slick roads, travel delays, and much, much cooler temperatures. Many areas in this year are only seeing highs in the 30s to near 40 by this weekend. Again, driven by this low that starts to carve out that storm track, really presses it to the south, allowing more opportunity, kind of the open door for this moisture to come through. So here it is, that low starts to approach the coast Friday evening. We'll see hit or miss showers really throughout the valley, but that Sierra snow is already starting to pick up. That will continue into our Saturday, becoming a bit more widespread with precipitation for the valley. And again, right along the Sierra spine, we see the opportunity for snow showers. So just be ready if you're headed up to the high country. Bundle up and get ready for some especially local roads to be impacted with some travel delays. Most of the bigger roads, I-80, Highway 50, 88, 89, 395, they should be pretty good given the limited amount of moisture and the warm road conditions, but some of those local roads could be a little slippery and be impacted by the amount of people up there. 8 to 14-day climate outlook. We're still looking drier, so once we get through this little pulse of change in our weather forecast, we're drier as well as likely warmer. In fact, we're going to be close to 90 by next week, which will put us right on target for our average first 90-degree day, which is May 2nd. 95 degrees is May 21st, and here you see it. That summer heat is just around the corner. By the time we get into June and certainly July, we're looking at 100 to 110 for the average first days. Here's a look at our 3-day forecast and the changes coming our way. Tomorrow, we're only at 70 degrees, dropping into the 60s. Friday into Saturday, we'll round out the weekend with dry conditions mostly for the valley. There is some hint, though, those showers could linger into our Sunday. That's a forecast we'll continue to update right through the weekend outlook. But for right now, we'll call it dry 71. And then there's those 80s, and we're talking mid to upper 80s. By next Thursday, we're kind of flirting with that 90-degree mark.